Now, I phoned my daughter Saskia just as I was coming in, just checking, because she used to be a primary school teacher and she taught the reception class. I said, what exactly is the age of the children we're talking about? Because I was wondering, is it nursery children or is it reception classes? And she said, absolutely, it's 5-year-olds. We're talking about 5-year-olds still in nappies. 6 out of 10 parents don't believe that they need to train their children to use the loo before they start school. This is according to government polling reported by The Sun today. And last year it was estimated that a quarter of children in England and Wales due to start school were not yet toilet trained. And according to the charity Kindred, pupils lost a third of their learning time each day because teachers had to, well, it says on the screen, support children who are not school ready. But what it really means is go and change nappies for other people's 5-year-olds, which sounds like torture on earth, doesn't it? Ghastly, time-consuming and dreadful. So do you think schools should simply take the step and say if your child cannot use the loo and is not toilet trained, unless there are some really serious special needs here, your child is not ready to start school? I mean, I think I'll start with you, Nicola. You've got 2 boys. You probably remember what an absolute nightmare it was to toilet train them. It's hard work, isn't it?
Well, you know, it is hard work, and being a parent's hard work, you know, but it's also so enjoyable, and potty training is one of the biggest achievements that they do and also you do, and you feel like so happy with yourself when they've done it. You're like really more praising yourself because you're like, I got through it. Yeah. You know, it's just such lazy parenting. To have a 5-year-old, as long as there's not any additional needs, of course, to have a 5-year-old still in nappies is utterly ludicrous. And for the child itself to be in school with its peers that most of them will not be in nappies, you know, what are you saying to this child? You know, I know I don't like banning, but, you know, definitely there should be a rule that if your child is not potty trained, your child cannot start school.
Marcel, what do you think? Because, of course, the backlash will reflect on the child itself, not just the parents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you said their peers or their peers, but I think parents are duty-bound to ensure that their children are potty trained. However, my view is children really shouldn't be punished and should sacrifice education for the sins of their parents.
What do you think, though, of this survey? Because the reason we're talking about this is the new news, it's real proper news, we haven't heard this before, that 6 out of 10 parents don't seem to think it's their job. They seem to think you leave it to the school.
Outrageous. That's the education challenge, to re-educate parents to ensure that they feel it's absolutely imperative that their kids are ready for school and potty trained.
I mean, Daisy, I don't know about you, but one of the reasons that I was prompted to get mine nice and toilet trained as early as I possibly could was because no parent that I have ever met enjoys changing nappies. No, I mean, you do it for them, but you partly, let's face it, do it for yourself, don't you?
You do it for yourself. And yes, you know, as we've just been saying, you go through this horrible few weeks or few months where there are accidents all over the house and blah, blah, blah. And it's the same as when you're trying to teach a child to feed themselves. You have to let them do it and they will make a horrible mess at the beginning. And so if you don't want to experience that mess, you leave them, you know, eating the baby food or in the nappies. But this all got a lot worse during COVID, when the nurseries weren't open, the schools weren't open, and parents, of course, had a lot on their plate, but just stopped thinking that it was something that they had to deal with. They just put it off. Because I've got teachers in my family, and they said exactly the same, that when kids came back after COVID, this became a real problem. And suddenly all the nursery teachers and reception teachers were spending their time changing nappies. And I think it's completely ridiculous that children like that should be sent to school. But there does seem to be this sort of feeling at the moment that it's not our problem as parents, and someone else will do the messy, dirty work.
I mean, I just remember this tortoise potty. I remember taking it in the car, out of the car, into the supermarket car park, thinking, oh my gosh, is anyone judging me? What are people thinking? Back in the car, on the grass verge, you know, this potty came absolutely everywhere. It was boring. It was quite embarrassing when, as you say, there were loads of accidents, of course. But ultimately it was necessary. And mine started nursery at 2.5, and they were not allowed to come. It was a private nursery, I had to pay for it. But they weren't allowed to come if they weren't trained to go to the loo.
Do you are you all familiar with the the comedian Catherine Ryan?
Of course.
Yeah, she's fabulous, and she actually starts potty training from birth.
Gosh.
So what she says is that we're training them to go in a nappy, and then all of a sudden we're training to go in potties. So what she does she starts doing it from birth, but it's certainly when they're having solid food. As soon as she starts feeding them, she then thinks, it's been 10, 15 minutes, put them on the potty. And she says all of her children have been potty trained by 1.
Wow.
So you can do it. She's speaking very openly about this on podcasts, which I found fantastic. I didn't do it. Mine were about 2.5 as well. So I didn't do it at that age, but it just shows you what you can do if you are a proactive parent. It's it's like we spoke about teeth brushing. Should schools be brushing the children's teeth because they're not getting done at home? It's just basic care. It's fundamentally basic care, and if you don't have the time to do the basic care, you shouldn't be having children.
Well, it's very interesting because there's a school in Gwent which took drastic action on this one earlier this year. It was just getting overwhelming for the staff. So they told parents if their children weren't potty trained, it was okay. They could come to school, sure. They couldn't ban them. They could come. They could attend. But the parents had to come personally to the school each time a nappy needed changing, unless there was a medically recognised need for this. Parents, of course, were up in arms and they called the policy unfair. To me, Marcel, that's quite a creative solution.
Actually, I think you're needed.
I want to go and change your nappies up, I hope not. Do you think that sounds like a good one? Because it's kind of saying, OK, we're certainly not banning the child. It's you.
It is, but it's impractical. You have parents, single parents who are working, doing responsible jobs. I don't know how pragmatic it is, but we just should not be in a scenario where kids are coming to school and needing nappies. At my time, we had naps, not nappies.
Absolutely. I mean, the numbers 0207 862 2222 do ring and talk about potty training your own children. How long did it take you? What age did you start? Liza Nicola's saying, and Catherine Ryan does, maybe you started very, very young, pretty much at birth. How did it work? Were you somebody who just couldn't manage to do it? Not everyone can do these things. Maybe you tried really hard and somehow your child didn't respond, but we'd love to know. I mean, the issue is that it's a very delicate, difficult time when children are just starting reception. If the teacher's forever out of the classroom, it's a nightmare.
Well, that's one thing, making the teacher, the teacher's burden so much more, but also the stigma on the child. If there are a few kids who are, having accidents and who their teachers are saying, right, it's time to change your nappy. These are kids, they're this big, they're not babies. And I just can't believe you would willingly send your child to school facing that. I mean, it's similar, but we all have to go through the agony of teaching our children how to ride a bike. It's deeply unpleasant, it hurts, all the rest of it. But you do it because you want your child to be able to have that life skill. And I mean, potty training is much more important than that.
I mean, the whole thing just is, it kind of boggles the mind, doesn't it, in a way? Because you just think how horrible for the parents, how horrible for the children, how horrible for the teachers. But what I'm wondering is, if you're trying to potty train a 5-year-old, you'd think it'd be fairly easy, wouldn't you? Because they understand exactly what you're asking them to do, and they know what a loo is, and they know what pants are, and they can pull them up and down. You would think it would take a couple of days, wouldn't you? Or is that ridiculous?
Well, I think like the guidelines of when you should start feeding a baby, and they say you must sort of start introducing food at 6 months, because if you leave it a bit too late, they actually can't then do it. Because, so is it the same sort of rule? The timing is so important.
I think the experts say when a child can sit upright, that's the time to start.
But my point is, if you leave it too long to feed them, they then struggle to feed. If you leave it too long for them to potty train them, they get stubborn. They're probably more fearful at 5. It comes with all sorts of different psychological, damages, doesn't it? So sending them to school, them being bullied by their peers because they're not doing the same, the teacher having to take them out of class, it just doesn't, I can't fathom it.
No. Caroline, what do you think? 6 out of 10 parents don't seem to think it's their job to train their children to use the loo.
I actually think it is the parents' responsibility to get their children ready. And I found it really interesting what you were saying today, because my son lives in Spain, and although my grandsons, they're twins, were at school, preschool, there were 2. When they had an accident, although they were trained, there was an accident, and my daughter-in-law has to go into the school to clean them up. They're not allowed to interfere with the child. I know that's a bit younger, but even though I do think it is the parents' responsibility.
And tell me, how did your daughter-in-law, Caroline, how did your daughter-in-law feel about that? Did you think that was quite right that she had to go in and sort out the accident?
She did, yes.
Yeah,
and I mean, and she did. There was a bit of a language barrier because they were still learning, and the teacher was saying "caca, caca," and like Chelsea actually then realised what she was saying. But no, the child, Frankie was in the toilet waiting, quite safe, and Chelsea or Jack would have gone in to see to them. So I know that's younger, but I do think it's relevant for the child being embarrassed as well.
So do I. Caroline, great call. I mean, that's what the school in Wales has done. It seems like a reasonable idea to me, although you're quite right. Obviously very difficult if you're working to rush up to the school. On the other hand, what a great incentive to potty train your child. Let's go to Harmony. What a beautiful name, Harmony in Somerset. Hi.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you very much.
Nice to have you on. So you've got a grandson and it's not turning out to be easy, this?
No, I have two sons and trained when they were 2-3 years old, but that was 30 years ago. Grandson I found everybody was calling into the show, including, I'm sorry to say, yourself and the panel, talking, not considering children with special needs. My grandson does have special needs, sadly.
We've mentioned special needs at least 5 times already today.
Oh,
we have absolutely said, unless a child has special needs. I said it, and Nicola said it, Marcel and Daisy. We've all said it, and we all realise some children have a real problem with this and have very... Yes.
Can I ask you advice? You tell us. We've been working on it, the nurseries, 2 nurseries, and myself, my grandparent, and he's a single dad. He can't go to do anything at school because he's on his own and he's got 3 children. Mum's not in the picture. Bottom line is, how do you do it then? It's so easy to read about it on the internet. How you do this, you do that, but it's not working.
How old is he, Harmony? How old?
He's 4 years old.
And what kind of special needs does he have?
He's autistic.
He's autistic, right. So do you feel... So when he's at home, is he able to use the loo or is he still in nappies at home?
He does. He's happy to sit on the toilet.
Yes.
He sits 10 minutes most of the time a bit longer because he gets fed up and he wants to come up. And we tried at least 10 minutes at school, at nursery, everywhere. And he just won't do it. Stubbornness, probably. I don't know. Fear. I don't know what it is. All I know is that he tries, and we all try. But when you take him off the toilet, 10 minutes later, you can see him straining, and I can't pick him up, but his dad picks him up straight away into the toilet, and he's already done it.
What a shame.
I don't know what can he do?
We'll see whether anybody's got any ideas here, because certainly some children, I mean, they will hold on and they will, because it's their one bit of control. It's the one thing they control. Yeah. And when they know that everyone's desperate for them to use the loo, they will deliberately hold on and they will deliberately do as your grandson is doing to kind of assert some type of independence and control.
I mean, I wonder if Harmony and her son have had any professional advice, because it sounds to me like this is something that, a child expert, some sort of therapist would be able to help them find those tactics, because you're quite right. Whether it's, I mean, there are so many issues, particularly with people on a spectrum or with special needs, which are not about potty training.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there are eating disorders that are not about food; they're about control.
Exactly.
Or they're about,
this is very probably
and there are
about
things where you need some
emotions
experts.
And how he feels when he's at school, and he feels, as you say, he's on his own there. He's not relaxed there, and the little bit of kind of independence that he can assert is that, And Harmony, I wish you all the luck in the world. And I think Daisy's quite right. And one of the things to do, of course, is go online and see if there are other people going through the same thing, and there usually are, and see whether they can suggest anything. Thank you so much for calling. Let's talk to David in Tyne Wear, and I want to talk to David because he's a former head teacher. David, how do you feel about this?
Well, I'm very sympathetic when children can't use the toilet, but it's certainly not the job of school teachers to change nappies. Parents have to take some responsibility. Not unsympathetic, as I say, but changing nappies in a reception class is totally not practical. I'm really sorry. As I say, I do appreciate there are some children who have this difficulty, but as a head, I expected children to be potty trained before they came to school.
And what happened if they weren't, David? Because, it's not apparently legal to say that they can't attend. You can't turn them away if they're 5.
Well, I think there had to be the parents have to either come into school, as you've indicated, and help at some point, but that does put a certain stigma on it.
Yes.
I don't think there's an easy answer.
In your day, and I don't know when your day was, but when you were the head teacher, was this a problem? Did it happen every year, or is it something you think has got worse and worse?
No,
since COVID?
Fortunately, I taught with parents who were obviously proactive and ensured, and when I saw parents before the children were admitted a year before, I made it very clear that the potty training had to be organised.
Yes.
It is hard, and I'm not unsympathetic, and there are children with special needs and difficulties, but on the whole, I just want to make the point that it is not the job of teachers to change nappies.
Really appreciate your contribution, David. Thank you very much indeed. Let's talk to Rebecca, who's in Nottinghamshire. What are your thoughts on this, Rebecca?
I personally think that it's not something that you can do, because what we're actually doing is trying to force children who are too young to go to school to do something that they're not able to show that they can do and conform. So really, to place... it is the responsibility of parents to train our children, but if they're not cognitively ready to be able to do it, then why are we forcing them to do it and not waiting until they're ready?
Well, because they're 5 years old, that's why. And I think the World Health Organization says that, between, I think it's 18 months and 2 is a good time. So you think, well, OK, don't start at 2, start at 2.5, start at 3 if you really want to. But by 5, if there aren't really special needs, then I think the idea is that children mostly are able to cope with toilet training by then.
But I think it'd be interesting to see the figures on it. I mean, the World Health Organization takes their numbers across, every continent on Earth. The NHS in this country says 18 months to 2 years old too. Yeah, I mean, I've got 4 children. I've had one child who absolutely was ready within that time frame. I've had 2 that weren't ready within that time frame.
But what age were they ready, Rebecca?
I've got 4.
Yeah.
Number 3 was my latest, and he was 3.5.
Yeah.
So it was still ready for school at 5, though.
Yeah, but they don't start school at 5, do they? They start school at 4.
Yeah.
Well,
if we send them to nursery because the pressures to go back to work are that they have to then start at 3, the nurseries then want them even earlier.
Right. It's a fair point, valid point, and really appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed.